Hi, everyone. Welcome again to Mental Health on the Mat, which is a yoga class that integrates mental health tools and yogic practice or yoga practice, asana practice, body movements. My name is Kelsey, and I am a therapist in Washington State. I see couples and individuals and largely do a lot of somatic work. So it's bringing the body into this mental health experience. For today, we are continuing our practice in September, focusing on balance. This is our third balance class so far. We focused on building awareness and the five koshas and where we wanted more balance in our life. And we focused on the balance between self-acceptance, self-love, and the desire for self-growth. Today, we're going to be reflecting on balance between our internal warrior experience and our external warrior experience. And so, how we can have strength internally and how we can have strength when we interact and face the world. Let's go ahead and get started with a few different breaths just to build in this idea of the difference between internal and external. And then we'll begin our meditation shortly after that. Go ahead and inhale your arms up. Exhale your hands to heart center. And just take a moment here to find a comfortable seat, to tune into your breath. Slowly coming into this moment, sinking deep in. And beginning to move with this breath, we're going to inhale our hands up. Exhale, spread our fingers wide, bring our hands to the side, circling them around. And as they meet under us, we're going to inhale them back up through heart center, following this around, making your arms as big and wide as possible, coming up through your midline, all the way up until your hands can't reach up anymore, then twisting your palms out to the side and exhaling them down and around. Few more times here, following your own breath. You can breathe out through your mouth. One last time here, all the way in and up and out and around. All right, we're going to continue this breath, this time going across the center and out, playing with the horizontal plane here. So starting by inhaling your arms wide, and you can imagine a string behind your hands, pulling your hands together. And then you're going to exhale, cross one arm over the other, give yourself a nice hug. You can take a breath here just to enjoy it for a moment. Enjoy this little moment of internal self-love. Mm. Inhaling, expanding your arms out in front, reaching behind you, crossing opposite arms over top as you exhale, coming back into that hug. Playing with this movement a few times. Inhaling, expanding, reaching, exhaling, crossing your arms for that hug. Following your own breath, your own pace, whatever your body wants right now on this horizontal plane. And you can continue with either of these breathing practices as I go through just a few logistics before we start our meditation for today. I'm going to let my arms relax, but you can continue playing on the horizontal plane or playing on the vertical plane, bringing your breath up and around. So as I mentioned, my name is Kelsey. I'm a mental health therapist in Washington State. I do a lot of somatic-based therapy, so bringing the body into your mental health practice and journey and healing. This particular class is not therapy and it's not advice, and everything is an offering. So you can follow along with my voice and my cues, or you can just let the words wash over you and do whatever you want as far as movement goes for today's practice. If you are on your lunch break joining us, we'll spend the first few minutes doing a meditation, and then we'll do a seated flow for the next 15 minutes. And the last part of our practice will be a standing flow, focused on balance and this idea of internal balance and external balance. Beginning our meditation for today, this practice comes from one of my mentors, Dr. Richard Dissel. He's a psychotherapist, and he focuses on primal psychology, and so bringing in your primal, innate human nature into psychotherapy practice. And he developed this meditation focusing on the internal warrior and the external warrior. And now, normally when we meditate, we might want to sit and do all of the visualization in your mind. Today, the invitation is to add your body into the meditation. So we're going to begin just by keeping that attention and awareness of our breath. Starting with our internal experience. You can imagine or begin to notice the air coming into your lungs as you breathe. You can imagine or begin to notice your heartbeat as it beats in your chest. And in this moment, just inviting your heartbeat to go as fast or as slow as it wants to go right now. And when you can feel your breath and when you can feel your heartbeat, let your intuition begin to move your body in a way that feels nurturing, in a way that feels like light, harmony, in a way that brings gentleness and comfort and security to your internal experience. And as you let your intuition begin to resemble your internal experience, you can see if your body wants to take you to a different spot in the room or a different pose. See if there's a way that your body wants to be that represents what your internal warrior might look like. And when you find your body in this position, in this spot, you can just begin to tune into this internal warrior of yours. Our internal warrior is a part of ourselves that is deeply resilient, deeply nurturing, deeply kind, deeply giving, deeply allowing, deeply receiving. I'll just hold a little bit of quiet space for you to begin to allow the shape and the movement and the experience and the voice of your internal warrior to come into relationship with you. when you have a clear picture and a clear idea and a clear shape of what this internal warrior is, you can imagine it being in a space of belonging in community. Our internal warrior is the part of ourselves that relates to others through deep love and deep connection. Mm. Offer this part of yourself a little bit of gratitude. Tune in again to your breath in case you lost it. Tune in again to your heartbeat. And tune in again to your intuitive movement and how your body wants to begin to move. This time we'll be finding a position or a space for our external warrior. Our external warrior is the part of us that has clarity, that has boundaries in connection with our community, that is strong, that is action oriented. And as you're losing my balance here, as you begin to feel into what this external warrior wants to be doing right now, how it wants to be moving right now, see if you can find a space or a pose or a position to hold for just a moment. There we go. Found mine. Find a space to hold for just a moment where you can breathe and listen to your heartbeat and feel your body being strong. Feel your relationship to the world being strong and stable and clear and connected. Feel the strength of your boundaries, the strength of knowing what you want, the strength of your external warrior. And I'll just hold a little bit of quiet space for you to find this part, to embody this part. To begin to notice, to hear, to listen to this external warrior. And if you lost it, tune back into your breath. Tune back into your heartbeat. You can always place a hand on your chest if you're having trouble feeling your heartbeat. For the last little part of our meditation, we're going to find the integration of these two pieces. So again, adding in some intuitive movement, maybe returning to that spot where your internal warrior was, maybe flowing between the two, figuring out where is the integration, where is the piece that these two meet. What does it look like when your internal warrior meets your external warrior? Mm. And if you find that place, go ahead and rest there for a moment. And if it doesn't have a place, you can continue to flow between your internal warrior and your external warrior. In your mind's eye, let these two parts meet for a moment. The part of you that is deeply nurturing, deeply kind, deeply loving, meeting the part of you that has strong clarity, strong boundaries, a strong sense of self. Again, I'll hold a little bit of quiet space for these two parts to meet, for them to build a relationship with each other and maybe have a conversation. When you're ready, find your way back to your breath, back to your heartbeat, back to whoever you are in this particular moment. We're going to begin our seated flow for today. Go ahead and raise those hands up. Exhale, pressing your palms together, bringing your hands to heart center. Inhaling to a neutral spine, chin parallel with the floor, ears above your shoulders. Go ahead and release your arms to the side before tucking your left arm under your right, bringing the backs of your hands together to meet, or the fronts of your palms together to meet in seated eagle pose. Exhaling, releasing those hands down. This time, bringing your right arm underneath the bottom of the left elbow, backs of palms to meet, or if you can reach around to have front of palms meet. Creating some stretch in between your shoulder blades. And exhaling both those arms down. Go ahead and inhale your left arm up. Bend at the elbow to put that hand behind your shoulder blades. Right arm is going to bend at the elbow, coming from the bottom, reaching your hands together behind your back. Mine are about 2 inches apart, so it's all right if they don't reach, if they don't actually meet. Releasing your hands, this time bringing your right hand up, bending at the elbow to reach in between your shoulder blades. Left hand bends underneath, fingers reaching toward each other. Doesn't matter if they touch or not. Taking a breath here and then releasing both your hands down. Go ahead and bring your left ankle up over your right foot. I'm going to have to take my socks off here so I don't slip when we're doing our standing pose later. Give yourself a little bit of an ankle roll to warm up that ankle. Inhale your arms up. Exhale, we're going to be twisting to the left side, right hand on your left knee, left hand behind you as you look over your left shoulder. Keeping that length in your spine, imagining a string drawing you up straight as you twist around. Planting that left foot back down on the ground as you untwist, this time bringing your right ankle up over your left knee. Taking any socks off if you have them. Inhaling those arms up again, dropping your left hand to right knee. Right hand reaches behind you as you look over your right shoulder. And untwisting to plant that leg back down. We're going to inhale our arms wide, just like we did during our breathing meditation, imagining a string behind your arms, pulling your hands together behind you, chest opening to the front. And then relaxing, letting your left and right hand reach long in opposite directions. Keeping this length in between your hands as you twist, bringing your right hand down towards your left foot. As your left hand reaches towards the sky, gaze is going to follow that left hand up. Untwisting, reaching again wide in each direction. Taking a breath before your left hand reaches down towards your right foot. Right hand is going to reach up high towards that ceiling or that sky. Gaze is going to follow upwards. Untwisting again, you can shake out your arms. We're going to reach them out front and forward like we're doing the breaststroke to bring our arms wide to the side again. And with our arms wide, we're going to drop our left ear to our left shoulder. Beginning our neck rolls around, tucking your chin to your chest. Right ear to right shoulder. And chin to the sky. Gently rolling your way around. See if you can keep your arms active, reaching in opposite directions as you roll your neck around. Switching directions if you haven't done so yet. Finally letting those arms down as you continue to roll your neck gently, slowly around. Notice the difference in your shoulders when you keep them wide as you roll your neck around. Switch directions if you haven't done so already. And bring your head back to that neutral position, chin parallel to the ground, ears above your shoulders. You can plant your hands on your knees or leave them down to the side. We're going to begin some windshield wipers. So you'll want to scoot to the edge of your chair. If you're seated on the floor, you're just going to bend your knees. And you're going to knock your knees to the left side. If you want some extra stretch, you can look over your right shoulder as you do this. And then picking up your knees to knock them to the right side, looking over your left shoulder. Creating a little bit of movement in your hips and neck as you slowly begin to link this movement to your breath. You decide which side represents the inhale, which side represents the exhale. All right, bringing your knees back to center. You might want to scoop back on your chair for this one. Picking up your right leg straight, go ahead and bring some ankle rolls. Playing around with which direction, pointing your toe, flexing your toe, bringing some movement into those ankles. Bonus points if you send a little bit of love to your foot. It does such a good job keeping us upright all day. Go ahead and put your right foot down, bring your left foot up, beginning again with those ankle rolls. Pointing and flexing your foot, switching directions. And again, sending a little bit of love, a little bit of gratitude for all the strength of your ankle and your foot. Go ahead and plant that foot back down. We're going to practice our balance pose first seated, and then we'll be doing a few variations of it standing in our flow today. Again, if you want to focus on balance, you can join in on this, or you can move around and do any other movement that feels good to you right now. While you're in your chair, you decide where you want to be. We're going to come to knees to our chest. So if you need a little bit more room, you can scoot back in your chair. If you're wanting more balance practice, you can come to the edge of your chair. But go ahead and just begin by bringing your knees to your chest. Your feet might hang over the edge. They might be tucked near your hips. They might be just up on your toes if that's as far as your body wants to move or to go today. Now, crow pose is the pose we're going to practice today, which is one of the trickiest arm balancing poses, I think, in yoga. But what it looks like, your bottom half will be in this seated position and your arms will be right out in front of you. So you can put your arms out in front of you, hands pointed up like you're saying stop. Your knees are going to be on the upper side of your elbow. So not on your elbow directly, kind of on that lower part of back part of your upper arm here. Straightening your arms and just noticing what it feels like to be in this pose, seated. You can play around with where your arms are positioned in relationship to your knees, maybe bringing them to the inside a little bit, squeezing your legs together for a little bit more stability here. And whenever you're ready, go ahead and release our seated crow pose. Come again to the edge of your chair so you can inhale your arms up. Exhale, let's drop them down, both to the left side. Right arm reaching up and over. Gaze can look up through the bottom of that right arm. Inhaling up again, exhaling this time to the right side. Inhaling both arms up, we're going to exhale, forward fold over our legs. And just hang out here for a moment. Letting your neck hang long, you can turn your head over to the right side, turn it to the left side. Maybe nod yes. And go ahead and come back up to our seated position here. Take about a minute or so to see in this seated position if you can still tune into your internal and external warrior. Listen to which voice wants to be louder right now and find a pose that can model that or mirror that or symbolize that for you in this moment. Right now, my external warrior feels really strong as I'm teaching this class for all of you. I feel connected to the people outside of me. Mm. And because we're practicing balance this month, see if you can turn into the voice that is smaller, the voice that is quieter, whichever one you didn't choose right now. So for me, that will be my internal warrior. And see if you can find the pose that represents that part. And tie this to your breath. Wherever you're at, inhaling to your external warrior, exhaling to your internal warrior. With your own breath at your own pace, finding your own flow and movement and balance between these two parts of yourself. And releasing that flow, we're going to be moving into our standing flow for today. So if you need to hop off the call to finish your lunch break, get some food, you can go ahead and do that. Or if you are just joining, welcome. We are working on balance today between our internal and external warriors. I'm going to go ahead and transition by moving this chair to the side so we can begin our standing flow. All right, today we're actually going to begin on our hands and knees, coming into tabletop position. Knees below your hips, wrists below your shoulders. Go ahead and move through a few cat and cows to warm up that spine. So dropping your belly down, chin to the sky. Then reversing it, bringing your spine to the sky, chin to your chest. Flowing with your own breath at your own pace. Warming up your spine just a little. Passing through neutral, you're going to look over your left shoulder towards your left hip as you bring your left hip, left shoulder closer together. Switching to the other side, kind of like a dog wagging its tail. Stretching the spine from side to side here. Adding in a little bit more movement. You can begin to move your spine however it wants to move today. You can continue with this intuitive movement, or you can join the rest of the class by tucking your toes, lifting your knees, and then hips towards the sky as we come into our downward dog of the day. Taking a breath here, maybe lifting your heels and dropping your heels, alternating which heel you're lifting, pedaling out your feet. All the while keeping your arms straight, shoulders pressed down towards the mat. Go ahead and slowly walk your feet closer towards your hands. Release your hands from the mat. Interlace your elbows with your hands on opposite sides to come into a forward fold, just letting your arms and head drop and hang low here. Mm. Slowly release your hands. Begin to roll your spine vertebrae on top of vertebrae up so that your head is the last thing that rolls up. Raise those arms up. We're going to reach wide to the sky for a variation of mountain pose here. Release your arms down and let's check in with our mountain pose for a moment. So mountain pose, we have our knees above our ankles, hips above our knees, shoulders above our hips, palms facing forward. The way this differs from our normal standing pose is that we want to find that space where we are super in alignment with gravity. So the space where our body needs the least amount of muscle strength to stand, where we're stacking our bones on top of each other. So you can play around with this by finding that balancing point, throwing yourself a little bit off center as you lean forward or back, side to side, until you find that center point. When you're in that center point, your body feels in alignment with gravity. Lengthen through your spine, keeping your chin parallel to the floor, but imagining a string pulling from the top crown of your head up, 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 creating space in between your vertebrae. Even just this simple movement might activate your muscles a little bit more as you stretch up. And exhale, deepening into this pose. Go ahead and circle both your arms up on an inhale. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift, lengthening through the crown of your spine, hands on your shins or knees. This time, exhaling, bend your knees until your hands touch the mat. Go ahead and step back with one foot first, then the other, coming into plank pose, using your core to keep a nice long line between your heels and the top of your head. Send those hips up to the sky. Readjust your feet to come back into downward dog. Taking a breath here before dropping your hips to come back into plank pose. Now you can stay here in plank pose, or you can add a little bit of balance by planting your right hand in directly underneath your chest, tipping to the side of your feet, bringing your left hand up to the sky. If this is a little tricky for you, another way to get into this pose is to drop down onto your knees in plank pose. Put that right hand right below the center of your chest, and then lift up that left hand to the sky. So you can do this pose kneeling or with your knees lifted. Finding that balance. Gaze is going to reach up towards the sky. And exhaling, planting that hand back down. We're going to lift our hips again, come back into downward dog just to reset. Maybe pedal out your feet again. And then dropping your hips back down, coming into plank pose. Again, you can choose to do this with your knees lifted or lowered. Dropping to the side of your feet as your left hand comes directly below your chest. Right hand is going to reach across up towards the sky, and gaze is going to follow. Exhale that hand back down, passing through plank before lifting those hips one more time for downward dog. And then dropping those knees to the ground for tabletop position. Now we're going to bring our knees closer to the edge of our mat. Bring our big toes together behind us. Sit our hips back down on our heels and come into child's pose. You can reach your hands forward. You can do an active child's pose or a relaxed child's pose. So relaxed looks like putting your forehead on the mat, forearms on the mat, and just letting yourself breathe and sink deeper here. Active, you can still have your forehead on the mat, but you're going to lift your hands and forearms up so that just your fingertips are on the mat, and you're pressing into your fingertips to push your hips deeper into your heels. Whether you choose an active or relaxed child's pose is up to you. Focusing on that internal warrior or external warrior. We're going to move into the more repetitive part of today's flow. Practicing and building up to crow pose, which is a lot of balancing and strength on your hands. Anytime, you are welcome to come back to child's pose to relax and rest or stretch a little bit more. It's your practice and your body and your life. All right. Pressing up from tabletop. We're going to come first into side crow. So tucking your toes underneath you, using your hands to walk you up into our balancing toe pose, which we tried one of our first the first balance flow that we did. So your hands are going to be flat on the mat in front of you. Bring both of your knees to the left side. From the left side here, you're going to press with your right knee into your elbow. And today we're just going to practice this pose. We can keep our feet on the ground, our hands on the ground, just pressing that right knee into our left elbow to begin to build some strength and stability in our left elbow, and a little bit of a side twist and stretch also. Beautiful. Go ahead and release that. Walk your hands forward. Come back into tabletop position. Move through a cat and cow. So dropping that belly down, lifting that chin. Exhaling, rounding your spine, tucking your chin. Returning to a neutral spine. So lengthening from tailbone to crown. You're going to bring your left leg forward and replace it with your where your left hand was. Plant your left hand and right hand on that left knee to help you come up into a lunge. Tuck your right toe behind you and begin to straighten that right back leg to come into a standing lunge on the left leg. Inhale your arms up straight. And we're going to exhale into warrior two. So twist your back foot to plant that heel down. Open your arms wide to the front and back of your mat. Gaze is going to follow to the front hand. Take a breath here. Before cartwheeling your arms down, planting first the right hand, bending in the left leg to reach that left hand to the mat and bringing your left leg back to come into plank position. Lifting your hips to the sky for downward dog. Taking a breath here before passing through tabletop with knees wide, bringing those big toes together, sinking back on your heels and coming back into child's pose. We're going to repeat that flow several times on both sides, adding on to our peak pose, our crow pose, and our warrior pose. I went through it a little bit fast this time. So I encourage you to not get discouraged by how fast I went through that, since we'll be repeating it so many times today. Again, you're welcome to stay in child's pose as long as needed. But if you're ready, go ahead and press back up into tabletop pose. We're going to tuck our toes underneath of us as we lift our knees, walking our hands back to our balancing toe position. Keep your hands on the mat so you can bring your knees this time to the right side, pivoting on your toes. Again, we won't be lifting our feet, but you're going to imagine bringing your left knee to your right elbow and pressing into them together, building strength above your right elbow. So your knee is actually not going to be right on your elbow. It's going to be a little bit above your right elbow to build some strength as we work into crow pose, creating a little bit of twist and a little bit of stretch. And then releasing that pose, walking our hands forward, dropping our knees, untucking our toes as we move through tabletop position and cat and cow. Finding a neutral spine. This time replacing your right hand with your right foot as you bring that foot forward into a low lunge. Placing your right hand on your right knee, then left hand on right knee as you straighten up through your body. Tucking your left toe underneath to lift your left knee up off the mat, coming into this low lunge. Finding your balance and stability, and then raising your hands up. Dropping that back foot down, arms out to the side. Gaze is going to follow that front hand. Coming into our warrior two. Cartwheeling both of those arms down to the mat. Bringing our right leg back to meet our left into plank pose. Hips to the sky. Downward dog. And then dropping those knees on the mat wide, tucking your big toes together as we drop back down into child's pose. Hopefully that time it was a little bit easier as we continue our flow for today. Again, you can stay in child's pose. Child's pose is great for focusing on your internal warrior, your nourishment, self-love. When you're ready, press up into tabletop. Tuck those toes underneath you as you walk yourself into our balancing toe pose. Now, here we're going to lift up our hands and place them on our knees. Left hand on left knee, right hand on right knee. We're going to do what's called walking crow pose. So twisting your body to bring your right hand and right knee down to the mat, then lifting it up and dropping your left hand, left knee down to the mat. Finding your balance, walking your crow, alternating, dropping your left knee down to the mat, right knee down to the mat. Pausing at the top in our toe balancing pose, we're going to plant our hands down on the mat and come into tabletop position. Moving through cat and cow. Bringing our left leg up and forward for our kneeling lunge. Lifting your upper body, tucking that back toe, lifting your back knee. Inhaling your arms up. Exhaling, dropping that back heel down, arms reaching out to the side. Adding on to our warrior pose, we're going to drop our back hand, curl it around our lower back, bringing our right hand, our left hand up. Gaze is going to follow in a crescent pose. Feel the strength of this warrior. And then cartwheel your arms back down to the mat. Left leg is going to meet your right in the back plank pose. Passing through downward dog. Before bringing again your knees to the mat, dropping those hips back into child's pose. Taking a breath here, staying here as long as you need. Or pressing up, tucking your toes under. Coming back into our toe balancing pose to once again try our crow taps. Planting your hands on the mat to return to tabletop position. Moving through cat and cow. Repeating the same flow on the opposite side. Bringing your right foot up where your right hand was. Hands planted on your right knee. Tucking that back toe. Lifting that back knee. Coming into a lunge as you bring your upper body up. Exhaling, arms reaching wide, warrior two, back heel on the floor. Taking a breath here before dropping your back hand, raising that front hand up and over. And exhaling everything down to the mat, returning to plank pose. Passing through downward dog. Spreading those knees, dropping them down to the mat, coming down onto your heels, and back into child's pose. We're going to go through this a few more times. Pressing up onto your knees, tucking those toes, and coming back into our balancing toe pose. All right, if you're ready this time, we are going to try crow. There's a few ways to get into crow. Some people can go ahead and put their hands on the mat and just bloop, pick up into it. I'm not one of those people, so I'll teach you my way that I do it. So I keep my hands on the mat. It actually works better for me if I straighten my legs and lift my hips to the sky, still being on my toes. Now I'm going to get my hands in a nice strong position. My knees are going to go right above my elbows. Knees are going to be knocked a little bit wide. And I just practice putting my weight onto my arms a few times. And once my body feels ready, I can pick up my toes, touch them together behind me, and hold in this balancing crow pose here. So you can practice that slow crow taps. We'll do this one more time as well. But again, sometimes it's easier if you have your center of gravity up a little bit before you pick up your feet. All right, let's go through our flow again, coming into tabletop, moving through cat and cow. First, lifting our left leg to a low lunge, hands on your knee, tucking that back toe, lifting your right knee up, inhaling your arms up, upper body up. Drop that back heel, arms wide. Now I'd like to teach you, I don't know if this is a real yoga pose or not, but one of my teachers taught me this pose. It's called the badass warrior pose. So from warrior two, you're going to keep your left hand long, left arm long, but raise your left hand like you're saying stop. Right hand's gonna come up and over like it's pointing at something in front of you, elbow bent. And then front foot, you're gonna lift your heel, come up onto that toe. Badass warrior pose. Take a breath here. And drop everything down to the mat, returning to plank pose. Downward dog. Dropping those knees to the mat and coming once again into child's pose. Staying here as long as you want or as long as you need. But if you're ready, you can come back up into our balancing toe position to again practice crow pose. So finding that strong, secure place on the mat for your hands, lifting up onto your hips, putting your knees on the upper part of the back of your arms, pressing first a little bit of weight, just practicing balance. Seeing if you can tune into your internal warrior here, the part of you that is super nourishing, super kind, super adoring of yourself as you practice crow pose. And when you're ready, releasing crow pose, moving into tabletop, moving through cat and cow. This time bringing your left knee forward, left foot forward, rising up onto your left knee. Oh, we're bringing right leg forward, sorry. Tucking your left toe under, lifting your left knee, raising those arms up, Dropping your back heel as you reach forward and behind, coming into our warrior two. And again, option to try badass warrior. Front arm stays straight, folding your fingers up towards the top. Left arm is gonna come at a 90-degree angle, elbow bent, wrist straight. Pick up that front heel. In this pose, focus on your external warrior, the part of you that sets boundaries, has clarity and strength. And when you're ready, release everything back down to the mat, coming into plank pose, pushing up through downward dog, and dropping your knees for our final child's pose of the day. Take a moment to really rest here. Begin the integration process and let yourself settle in and sink into whatever's happened so far in today's practice. Tune into how you're feeling right now, what emotions are arising after this practice. And if anything needs tending in your system, ask yourself which serves a better function here, your internal warrior or your external warrior? And how can that part of you meet some small need that you might have right now? When you're ready, you can push up into tabletop. We're gonna come around to a seated position. Reach your legs long out in front of you. Inhale your arms up. Exhale, forward fold, reaching forward towards those toes. Inhaling up back to our seated position. We're going to bring our left ankle over our right knee, just above our right knee. We never want to put any weight on our joints proper. Inhaling arms up, exhaling forward folding, deepening this stretch on the left side. Inhaling to straighten up, letting your left leg lie long, bringing that right ankle over your left knee. Inhaling up, arms reaching before forward folding over that right bent leg. Reaching up again, coming to a neutral place. This time, bending your knees so that your feet can find a flat spot on the ground. Use your hands behind you to support your weight here. And just begin some windshield wipers by knocking your knees to the left side and then the right side. Your feet might roll up onto their sides. See if you can keep both hips on the ground. Go ahead and straighten your legs long. We're going to come into our laying position on our back and continue with this figure four stretch. So we're going to bend our right knee so that our right foot is on the ground and our left ankle is going to come over top of our right knee. Go ahead and pick up your right knee to your chest. You can interlace your fingers around your knee or around your thigh to slowly, gently pull that right knee closer towards your chest. See here if your body wants to rock from side to side. And then release that right leg long. This time your left leg is going to be bent. Right ankle over top of your left knee. Lift that left foot up off the ground. Interlace your fingers around your left knee or left thigh to bring your left knee a little bit closer to your chest. See if your body wants to add in any little bit of a movement here. Maybe rocking from side to side. And releasing both legs back down to the mat. As always, now is a great time to add in any intuitive movement that wants to come in, that's unguided and unstructured. Or you're welcome to come to Shavasana, comfortable laying position on your mat. The invitation is to drop in to your experience of your internal warrior, your external warrior. See if there's a way that they want to be laying right now. How do they want to rest and relax and receive all the wisdom from today's class? Of course, you're always welcome to let your mind just drift and think about nothing. My voice will guide you when it's time to come out of Shavasana. All right. Thank you, everybody. Go ahead and wiggle those fingers and toes. Come back from Shavasana. It was lovely to see all of you. You can continue to relax a little bit longer if you want to. Today was a bit of a short Shavasana. Wonderful to see you all, and I will see you next week.